Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Charlton Live. This is our first show of the 2024-25 season. Hope you guys are well. My name is Louis Mendes. Hope you had a really good summer as well. Welcome back to the show as we start to gear up for the brand new campaign, of course, starting with Saturday's trip up to Wigan Athletic. Joining me to look ahead to the upcoming season. First up, top right, is Lewis Cat. How you doing, Lou?
I'm really good, mate. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Really glad to be back. I feel like the summer break has gone on too long now. We've had our fun with the Euros. Now it's time to get back into the real stuff.
Exactly that, mate. Raring to go. Raring to go.
Well, the man, of course, who didn't have any fun at the Euros, of course, Tom Wallen. Wales didn't make it. Good to see you back again, my friend. How are you?
Didn't even know there was a tournament on, was there? But how did England get on? Did they win it or something?
Got really close, which is good enough in my book. Good enough in my book. So
Shame.
yeah, did you have a nice summer?
It's been all right. Like you said, it just feels like it's gone on forever. But now we're here. I'm excited for the new season, and this is about as positive as we can be, isn't it? No games played, no defeats. It's a good start.
This is the best bit of the season before we've actually tried to play any football. Then reality kicks in. But it's been a summer of change in SC7. There's been a whole host of incomings and outgoings. We'll discuss all of those on this evening's show. We will, of course, hear from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones, looking ahead to the season and to the game against Wigan on Saturday. We're going to hear from Gassan Ahadme, one of those new signings. I spoke to him after Saturday's win over Portsmouth in pre-season. Want to hear it from you guys as well. Massive welcome to everyone who's joining us live on YouTube for the first time this evening. All hell let loose. Got in with the first post of the new season. Paul's in there. Sue's in there. Lucas is in there listening from Brazil. Says he can't wait for the campaign. Hope you're well. My friend Mark's in there. Gary, Shiny Phil, Adrian, Joe's in there, Martin's in there, everyone. Good evening to you all. Mark as well, saying finally something decent to watch. Welcome back, lads. Come on, you Reds. So, the brand new season is ahead of us. Before we hear from Nathan Jones, then just summing up where we are at the moment, Lou. Let's get your opinion. How do you think the summer's gone? There's been some big departures at the club. There's been 7 permanent signings so far. How are you feeling? What are we saying? Is this the season where we finally do something?
Well, let's hope so, mate. Hey, I mean, overall, I feel fairly optimistic coming off the back of the summer. I think at the back end of last season, it'd been the first year under new ownership, and we know it wasn't a success really with everything that went on. There was obviously a lot of positivity around Nathan when he came in, in February time and took over. Went on a great run and it kind of didn't save the season because it was pretty poor. It was our lowest finish in God knows how long, but it obviously stopped us going on a monumental slide. And because there was a lot of positivity around Nathan, I feel like going into the summer, there's been that air of positivity among the fan base about looking forward to a full season under Nathan and off the back of a window where he can bring in the players that he wants to bring in. Implement his style, try and get us looking at a little bit more like a football side, to be honest. So yeah, I've been really not ambitious, but I'm looking forward to the new season. Nathan for me is the key. Like I feel it's so much easier to be optimistic and get behind something when you've got someone at the helm that you can really believe in. And I've felt since Jones has come in that there has been that, regardless of the negatives last season. Like I say, it kind of salvaged it slightly with him coming in, and it feels like we're on not an upward trajectory, because obviously the talking will be done on the pitch as the season kicks off on Saturday. But it feels like a lot of the right cogs are being put in the right places this summer, with lots of work going on off the pitch to improve things around the valley, which makes it an overall better experience for supporters and hopefully will encourage people in the door. And likewise, if the football is better, then that's only going to help as well. And once everything's pulling in the right direction, this club can go, to great places. We know that. So look, there's obviously a long season ahead, 46 games of ups and downs, as we know, and these things are never easy. It's our 5th year in League One, and I'm desperate to get out of it. So I'm going with that optimism now, and hoping that come May we'll be looking back on a successful season and hopefully looking towards the Championship next year.
Yeah, we're coming back off we're coming off the back of our worst season in 98 years, Tom. That's the starting point. There has been a lot of change. I mean, we need it as a club. We need to have some success at some point. So I'm really hoping that this is the year that that things kick off? Because I don't know how much more of this we can take, really.
It's certainly setting myself up for a fall here, but it certainly felt like last season was rock bottom.
We said that before, though, a couple of times.
Probably, yeah, we probably have. But I think, as Lewis said, I think what Nathan managed to achieve with that squad in the back half of last year was impressive. Look, it didn't blow anybody away. As you say, it was our worst finish for a very long time. But, the way he galvanised the squad and got them out of, let's face it, a relegation scrap, which we were in for a while, was good. And I think the signings we've made have improved us. I think the question is whether there's enough of them. But you look at the names, and I think this summer they are established names. They're sort of names Nathan knows, so he's building a squad that he knows he can trust. And I know how much you read into pre-season results, I don't know, but you look at some of the performances, certainly the one against Portsmouth at the weekend, and you can see there's a side there that, even if they're not playing the prettiest football at times, are willing to fight for each other and willing to scrap and willing to get results. And I can't remember how many times last season where that was the thing that was lacking, along with a whole host of other things. But in particular, it was that determination when things got tough, or when a team sat in or whatever, that we would find a way to break them down, and that players would look out for each other, and that they'd work as a unit. And I think that's been lacking. And it feels like that is maybe a little bit better now. And I don't think Nathan will really let them get away with that. So you're right. I think the challenge is that it's a harder league probably than last season, probably harder than it's been for a couple of years. We've, as I said, last season, I think all through it really, and particularly towards the end, it was a massive wasted opportunity. So it is going to be a tougher league. There's obviously teams up there that I think lots of people are hoping will fail. Birmingham, obviously, with the money they spent, Wrexham with their kind of fairy tale, as they like to call it, or huge investment of money, as anybody else would like to call it. So yeah, it's going to be a tough season, but I do think we've stocked well. I still think we need a few more, but I'd like to think we're in a better position than we have been for a couple of years now.
We will find out over the course of the next 9 months or so. Well, how does Nathan Jones feel going into this brand new season? And well, he had his press day earlier on today, and Terry asked him those very questions.
Season, Dan, and when we spoke after the Portsmouth game, you felt we were in a good place. I assume nothing's changed since then?
No, look, it has been. The thing about pre-season is you've what you class as successful pre-season is if you can implement a lot of what you want to do. You've been able to get majority of your squad in, and you've kept them all fit, and you've enhanced their fitness. So we've been able to do that. Look, results are results in pre-season. Sometimes it can be false, sometimes it can be good gauges. You just never know. So taking results out of it, we're in a wonderful place, because I said 95% availability rate, almost all our squad in. Yeah, we've still got one or two bits to do, we believe. But it's been a good pre-season, so we believe we're in a really good place to go into the season.
And up to now, 7 signings, 7 new signings, all permanent. Was that a conscious decision in the off-season to hold off on any loan signings potentially until you got most of your permanent stuff done?
Well, look, for me, my thing is you only take loans when they are categorically much better than what you can probably sign permanently. They have a real quality and they give you a real boost. Otherwise, you're developing other people's players. So what we prefer to do is get our own players, work with them, make them better, and then everyone moves forward, and then they're our assets. That's what we prefer to do. At times, there comes opportunities where you go, look, we've got a real chance here to get real short-term quality, and that's the only time I ever take a loan.
You've said that we still have business to do, and there's been plenty of rumours. I don't expect you obviously to name stuff, but specifically in the keeper's position, does it actually become easier once the season starts, for example, like as we get going next Saturday? Does it become slightly easier or tougher to get these players in?
No, look, we've gone after real bold signings, and people that we've gone after have gone. We haven't been able to get one or two over the line because they've gone to to top league clubs in terms of Premier League or La Liga or whatever it's been. So that's been a relative frustration. But in terms of what we have in the building, we've improved the department. Ashley's obviously in a good place, and then Will, is an excellent goalkeeper. So we're delighted to have got him. He was our first one we got over the line in terms of the goalkeepers. So look, the goalkeeping department's in a decent place, and as I said, we wanted to improve it from last year, and we have.
Before I get on to the game coming up, last season when you came into the club, obviously there was a specific remit to get us away from where we were, and you inherited a squad pretty much. Now this season, of course, with the new signings, squad's more yours. Does that bring with it a little bit more pressure, or a little bit more expectation? Do you think?
Right, it doesn't matter. I don't, it won't be any more pressure than I put on myself. So whatever outside factors want to put pressure on, it doesn't affect me. I want to win games of football for our football club, and that's what I want to do. And I put that pressure on me, but we're in a better place. So we had real pressure last year not to go the other way. Now we want a different pressure, but it's with a group that, one, I've had more time to work with, and two, I've been able to handpick a lot of that. Yeah, there's still a little bit of work to do on the group, but we are in a considerably better position than we were last year.
Well, there we go. Nathan Jones saying that the Addicts are in a considerably better position than they were last year. Lewis, do you agree with the Addicts boss there?
I do, yeah. I mean, I think the incomings that we've seen have all been stronger than what we had. Obviously, it was going to be a real overhaul in the summer. Anyway, there were a few people have gone who I would rather not have, which I'm sure we'll come on to talk about. But when you look at the caliber of the ins compared to some of those outs in that column there, I think we've improved in every area. There's the obvious Alfie May, George Dobson, two of our standout performers last season that are going to be incredibly difficult to replace. But when you compare in, like if I'm picking Alex Mitchell on Michael Hector, I see that as an upgrade. I see Will Mannion as an upgrade on Harry Eisted. I see Matty Godden as an upgrade. Greg Doherty, I've been really impressed with so far. So I think overall, the caliber of player that's come in has been good. Obviously, I think we touched on it. There could be more. But I think it was Nathan that said in the other day in our chat that it's probably going to take Nathan a couple of windows and that Rome wasn't built in a day. But if this is the kind of approach we're going down in terms of recruitment, and these are players that Nathan's handpicked to be part of a project as such, then I'm all for it. You know, I think the business we've done has been fairly smart. I think we've targeted some critical areas. I think for me, the biggest for us was midfield, because we were going to lose Dobson regardless, whether it was to Hungary or to somewhere else. And he was our strong point in midfield last season, and in a midfield that was underperforming. So to bring in Greg Doherty, a captain, and Luke Berry, they're both very good players in that position that make us stronger. And then we've got players that are probably going to want to make a bit more of a point than they did last season. So Karoy was obviously fairly impressive last season in midfield, but the likes of Connor Coventry came in January under Appleton with a lot of promise, maybe didn't shine as much as he'd have liked, but you'd like to see like a renewed sense in him that he's going to come in now and get his head down and play in a midfield of players that are going to improve him. So yeah, I think the recruitment we've done so far has been bang on. I mean, I'd like to see a few more names, as I say, but I think the people that we have brought in, as I say, they definitely strengthen us, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, Valiant says we're a much better side than last year for sure, but have we signed enough quality to go up? I don't feel we have. What are your thoughts, lads? I mean, I brought up onto the screen for those of you joining us on YouTube the list of ins and outs. We know about the 7 permanent arrivals. We haven't been able to get another new goalkeeper over the line. We've had a couple sort of come and go, it seems, in terms of Asmir Begovic and Carl Hine. I've also put loans returning. So when you compare it from where we were last year, I mean, we didn't have Scott Fraser at the end of last season, and officially he currently is available, but I mean, he's not going to be there. So we're looking at effectively 7 that have come in since the end of last season. Some huge departures. I don't think you can get away from the top 2 there. In Alfie May and George Dobson, that they will be big talking points. Tom, overall, do you think we've improved? Is it too early to tell?
I think probably it's too early to tell. I think I would suggest we're ever so slightly stronger without knowing what they look like as an 11. If I had to go one way or the other, and I think when we signed the likes of Thomas and Hector, which I don't think was for the start of last season, but obviously they're people that have gone out. When we signed them, we probably spoke a lot on this podcast about the experience they were bringing to a backline that was dodgy. So on paper, those were good signings, but then you look at what happened to them, and that obviously didn't prove to be the case. So when you look at people in particular, like a Luke Berry or a Matty Godden, proven at this level, proven beyond this level, Matty Godden gets goals. Luke Berry has gone, all the way. these are good players, and obviously some of them know Nathan Jones as well. So on paper, they all make sense. And as I say, probably like Lewis was saying, when you match them up, probably are slightly stronger. But realistically, until we go into those first few games, we're just not going to know how they gel. It's same with Alfie May. Alfie May, obviously a huge loss on paper, but actually, did he fit Nathan Jones? He seemed like he was trying to sort of ease him out gently towards the back of last season. Now, I know he scored a hatful of goals and we're losing those goals and we're going to have to replace those. But you look at that on paper, and the paper loss and the on-pitch loss, when you've got Nathan Jones as manager, how does that fit? So there's lots of nuances around all of it. But I think generally, I judge it kind of personally on how I feel when I see that there's a new signing being announced. Am I excited? Am I a bit nonplussed, or am I disappointed? And I think to a man with these people that have come in, I've been excited, and I think they add something. So I guess that probably means we are stronger. And I think even if you look at those loan departures, people like Louis Watson, Pan Kamara, probably the ones we expected to make the most impact and didn't. So yeah, I don't feel, other than those top two, really anybody that's gone offered us enough. And it's an opportunity for these guys now. As I say, I think it's too early to tell, but I think it's an opportunity there. And I'm relatively confident. I know I am most seasons, but I'm relatively confident that they're going to perform better than last season.
So if you were to look back at last season, and if someone came up and asked me what was our biggest downfall, I would say defensively we weren't good enough. We had the second worst amount of clean sheets in the division. We always felt as the season wore on, we were probably scoring enough goals or a reasonable amount of goals. But when I was doing sort of research in the summer and looking at some stats, I found it really interesting to look at the pure goal stats in terms of where we finished and where the sides in the top six finished. So last season we ended up scoring 64 goals and conceding 65. So Barnsley, who finished 6th, conceded 64. Peterborough finished 4th, conceded 61. So even with our poor defensive record, there were teams in the playoffs who conceded roughly the same amount of goals as us. Every team in the playoffs scored at least 15 more goals than us. That's a minimum. Some of them scored more than 20 more than us. So whereas I always thought all we had to do was tighten up our defence, and that might have been the case. With a tighter defence, Lincoln and Blackpool scored similar amounts to us, but only just missed out with a much tighter defence. So where is it? You could argue that if you tighten the defence, we might have had enough goals in us. You could also argue that actually, whilst we were scoring okay, we didn't get quite enough to get into the playoffs. Now we've taken Alfie May out of that side, Lou, and we've taken 6 months ago Corey Blackett-Taylor out of that side, the man who provides most of our assists. So the first question is, are we going to be able to A, replace those goals, and B, get more with what we've now got in the building? Now, Matty Gordon's had a good goal scoring record at this level. Is there going to be enough goals in the side going forward and enough creativity to replace that amount of assists that Corey Blackett-Taylor was getting for us?
It's tough to tell, isn't it? I mean, the stats for both Corey and Alfie were unbelievable for us. Corey, last season, definitely that first half was the strongest I'd seen him for us. And then, I mean, Alfie was just, he's natural born goal scorer. He is probably the best goal scorer this level has ever seen. And it's a massive loss and a massive risk to lose Alfie. But there is confidence in that by losing him, we have replaced with two strikers that, as you say, Matty Godden's got a good record at this level. Has had a few injury issues, but all in all, at this level, especially, a very good goal scoring record for Coventry, Peterborough, and alike. And then Gassan Ahadme had a really impressive back end or second half of the season on loan at Cambridge last year. So there's two strikers there that for me, what did Alfie get overall? Was it about 27 in all competitions, I think? So you're looking at, if you're splitting those goals out, for me, I always looked at our team last season and I couldn't really see beyond Alfie for goals. Well, when I look at this team and I look at taking as an example the 11 that we played on Saturday against Portsmouth, I'm looking at a revived Tyrese Campbell that looks like he can get goals. I'm looking at Greg Doherty, who looks like he can come forward and get goals, and then the likes of Gassan Ahadme, Matty Godden, Chuck Sanike, if we can keep him fit, Miles Lieburn when he returns, I think he's going to be big for us. So I think before we put so much weight on Alfie's shoulders for the goals. Losing Alfie, we haven't got a choice but to try and split that load, and try and get the goals spread across the side. And I'm hoping with the people we've brought in and the quality of the players that we do have in the building, Chukwuemeka and Miles Lieburn are two very, very good strikers at this level. They've both been incredibly unfortunate with injury, but hopefully if we can get both of those fit, there's some serious options up front. I think Nathan said today, I think we've got seven senior strikers to choose from if you include Dan Carnu. So, there's a lot of options there. It's just hoping that they can find the net as easily as Alfie did. But, he's gone now, Alfie May, as much as it pains me to say. But I'm going to put the faith in the players we've got in the building now that, it's how we play and the system that Nathan plays is going to get goals, hopefully. And if it does, then I imagine that there won't be any issues, the likes of Gassan Ahadme, etc., to try and rack up the goals for us.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be certainly be a decision that Nathan Jones lives or dies by, but it's one that I feel like the groundwork was being laid quite early. I think there was a lot of conversation with Nathan about how he kept bringing up how when he was at Luton he let players go that a lot of fans were surprised to see go. So Nathan obviously, I think, backed himself to make this decision. I know there was a lot of stuff about Alfie's family situation as well, and obviously we wish Alfie all the best by the way, but. It's still up to Nathan if he wants to make that decision, and he has, so he's got to back himself to do that. At the other end then, so I mean, we mentioned the defenders that we've seen go out in terms of centre halves, Terrell Thomas and Michael Hector. Terrell's dropped down to League 2. Michael Hector, I don't think he's got another club yet, I haven't seen. So the only central defender that's come in so far is Alex Mitchell. I mean, I was only seen him in pre-season, done well with Lincoln last year by all accounts. Obviously there's a bit of an addition in the left wing back position in Josh Edwards, who's looked decent enough in pre-season. But obviously there is still that end of the pitch that needs tightening up, and clean sheets were hard to come by last season for all 3 or 4 or 5 managers, if you include the interims there, Tom. So that obviously has to improve this year. And let's hope that Nathan can finally sort of crack that nut, because that's been a problem for us for a couple of years now.
Yeah, and I think most weeks we were saying, look, what is the defensive problem, and is there only one? And I think the answer is no. When you're conceding that many goals, it's a combination of things. I think the personnel was a problem, and I think obviously Thomas and Hector going therefore probably means there's going to be changes. Whether it's better or worse, we'll see. I think we were praising Lloyd Jones a lot. He was the best of a bad bunch, so I'm not going to say he blew the league away or anything like that, but he looked impressive, and he's had a season under his belt at the club now, so that helps. And then I think the other things other than personnel are probably organisation of the back line. And with Nathan Jones having a pre-season, hopefully that's something he can have spent a lot of time working on. And then I think the biggest point, which was one we were debating the entire season, was that goalkeeper position. Who's our number one? Are they a leader? We've talked about leaders throughout the team last season, and I think I read somewhere today that he feels like he's got leaders generally, so that's a positive. But in that back line, none of the keepers really ever filled us with confidence behind that defence. And it remains to be seen. I know we haven't sort of given a keeper a number one, and as you say, there were a few that we've looked at and we haven't brought anybody else in other than Mannion so far. But I'm confident in Mannion. I think he's a good keeper for this level, if it is him that's going to get the shirt until we find somebody else. But the important thing is that relationship between the goalkeeper and the back line. And if that organisation can be a little bit better, then that's probably the best chance we've got. Because I know we've lost George Dobson, but even with him doing all that defensive work in front, we were still shipping goals. So not only have we lost him, but also we've got a new goalkeeper, probably, unless Ashley's going to be playing. A couple of new defenders coming in, as you say, in the likes of Edwards and Mitchell. And hopefully a bit more structure in them. So it's more transition, which I feel we needed. But it's about them kind of getting to know each other, getting organised as a unit, and performing as a unit. And hopefully Jones will stick to a formation, which again, because of the changes we had through Holden and Appleton and into Jones, there was chopping and changing in positions and formations and personnel. And we just never really had that consistency. And then when we finally did get it, we we still didn't improve that much, and that had to be down to personnel, I think.
Yeah, certainly, and that's why there were players shipped out at the end of last season. I think it was clear in that final third of last season, the way Nathan was speaking towards the end of it in particular. You could tell that there were players in that back line that weren't at the level that Nathan required, and we've seen obviously Harry Isid went out as well. As I mentioned, Thomas and Hector are gone now. Sam says it's a big season for Lloyd Jones. I feel with Mitchell, and we'll support him. Well, don't forget Lloyd Jones has been given the vice captain's armband, if there is such a thing, but he's the vice captain. You don't get an armband for being vice captain, do you? So that's a shame. But he is vice captain, isn't he? So obviously some trust put into Lloyd Jones from Nathan Jones there. Yeah, I mean, Paul's saying we were too reliant on Corey and for creativity and Alfie for goals. I think this squad gives us more creativity and more scope for goals throughout. And these are the sort of things that we'll see play out over the course of the season as we learn more about our new players as well. Because, how many pre-seasons or have we got sucked into thinking we're going to be a certain type of team? But until you really see them for 10 games, that's when we'll really sort of learn about them. And it's always exciting at this time of the season to find out what they're going to be like. Mark made a good point up in the chat earlier, talking about the squad numbers that came out today. I mean, obviously there is no number one, so that's still up for grabs. He says there's no numbers for Ness or Fraser either. Have we heard anything? I imagine we'll be shipping Fraser off somewhere north of the border on loan. Ness, haven't heard anything specific, but it's probably a good sign that he's not been given. It's probably a sign that he's not been given that squad number as well. So certainly some room for movement there. I mean, the goalkeeper scenario then, Lewis. So Asmir Begovic, someone mentioned though up in the chat. I mean, we were pretty keen on him, but it was Paul says the QPR fans weren't that sad to see him go. Just from following a few QPR people on Twitter, I didn't get the impression he was massively popular last season. Obviously, then Carl Hein was going to come in, relatively inexperienced in terms of league games, but would have been on loan from Arsenal. Has played plenty for Estonia, and he's ended up going to was it the German league or La Liga he went to, wasn't it? So he's ended up in the top division in Spain. So maybe we've missed out on what could have been a decent acquisition there. So it does mean we're left with obviously Maynard Brewer, who, judging by the fact that we've tried to completely revamp the goalkeeper department in the summer, you'd have to assume isn't Nathan's first choice, and Will Mannion, who, again, relatively inexperienced in league football, and quite clearly has come in as backup. So I think there is still a hope that we'll improve that department, but as it stands, that's what we'll be going into Saturday with, Lou.
Yeah, it's difficult for me. So one of the things I thought about it goes back to when they said about this 8-8-8 recruitment system, and I think it's critical that one of your elite 8 is a goalkeeper. Like that is a no-brainer for me. I've been fairly impressed with Will Mannion. He was impressive at the end of last season for Cambridge, came in and played really well there, and I was quite happy when we signed him. Obviously I was expecting us to get in a more experienced number one. I wasn't really expecting Ash or Harry Isid to be here, or at least one of them to not be here. And obviously we've seen Harry leave for Burton, and Ash's squad number. I try not to read too much into squad numbers, but his squad numbers obviously switched from number 1 out to 21 or something like that. So it's obviously clear that we are still looking in that department. I wouldn't have been a big fan of the Begovic signing, I don't think, because at the back end of his career, I mean, the experience he has is unbelievable, and he probably could have been very good for Ash and for Will Mannion. Both a bit younger, a bit of experience. Maybe the plan was that he would come in, be number 1. Those two would develop under him and make a claim for number 1 following that. But I would have been more happy with some of the other goalkeeping targets that we've missed out on. I think Sinisalo was the one I wanted, but he ended up going to Celtic. And, you struggle to compete at that level when you see these targets going off to the likes of Celtic and over to La Liga and stuff like that. It's very difficult as a League One club to compete. But look, I think Will Mannion will be the one that starts on Saturday. I think he seems to be preferred, and I've been quite impressed with him so far. I mean, granted, he didn't have a lot to do when I watched on Saturday, but he's a goalkeeper that's played a decent number of games at this level and has looked impressive, and he's come in and he's going to try and make that jersey his. And if we do get somebody else in, then it's down to Ash or Will to try and keep the gloves and make sure they remain Nathan's number one choice. If Will Mannion plays an absolute blinder over the next couple of weeks or week until we get another goalkeeper in, it's going to be very hard to drop him. So whoever does get that starting berth on Saturday, it's down to them to try and keep themselves there. But yeah, I do think we're still a little bit short in the keeper department, but I'm also, I'm backing Will Mannion to make that jersey his.
Yeah, fair point. Andrew Roberts points out I forgot to include Zach Mitchell on the loans returning tab. He sort of came back on the sly, like about midway through the second half of last season, but because of the terms of the loan, we couldn't play him, so he was sort of back. But yeah, no, it's a good point. He is officially back now and has been involved in pre-season. All hell let loose is asking if we're going to offer Dan Potts a contract, or do we need someone else to go out first? I think that's where we are in terms of we need departures now before new players will come in. Nathan said as much when I spoke to him on Saturday. So yeah, maybe there is still room for some improvement in the squad, but we have to be patient now, Tom. We've got to that stage where we did a lot of business early, which Nathan did say he wanted to do, but now we're at that stage where we don't know. We're not quite able to add any more. So that does obviously then ask the question, well, does that mean we're not quite at the level to start the season, or does it just mean we've got as far as we can and we'll finish it by August and just hope we pick up enough points in this first month of the season before we get the full squad in place?
It's one of those, isn't it, where we've had seasons where we haven't signed anybody for weeks at the start of the window and everyone's furious, and then you bring a load in towards the end and everybody's happy because we're signing players. But then they take longer to gel because they don't get all of pre-season. When you do it this way, you get all your business done early and they get a whole pre-season. But that means it feels like for us, we haven't signed anybody for ages. And so you get a little bit of itchy feet. I think particularly when you know that the squad isn't quite there yet. But as you say, obviously, Nathan said to you at the weekend that, look, now it's a case of players going out before he can bring in. We know what he thinks about loan players as well, although maybe he will look at that on a very limited scale as options. I still do think we need 2 or 3 more. And so, yeah, I think between now and the end of the window, we're just going to have to go with what we've got. Like Lewis said about the goalkeeper, we haven't got another one. So Mannion will probably start. It gives these players an opportunity. And we have to remember that when we were signing them early on in the window, I think largely we were happy with every signing we've made. They have had all of pre-season, which, as I say, hasn't happened for a little while. So I think we've moved quickly and we've moved well. And I think the players we've brought in are good. As I say, I think we're still a couple short. But it remains to be seen whether we get those. And if it's not, and this is the squad we're working with, well, so be it. And we'll have to give it a go on what we've got. We haven't got the money of a Birmingham who are happy to chuck. I don't know how much they've spent this transfer window, but I think we're in a good place. That's the way I would say it. I think we are in a good place. I think the signings have been pretty solid. And as I say, you know what you're going to get. You've got leaders. You've got a unit, and Nathan Jones already can trust a lot of them. Lots he's played with before or managed before. So, I think it is very much a case of wait and see. And you just don't know. That's, again, going back to that point I made right at the start about this is the most excited you can be because you just don't know what to expect on Saturday. I've got no idea who's going to play and I've got no idea how they're going to play, which is, both terrifying and exciting at this stage in the season anyway.
Jake says we need another central defensive midfielder. Coventry got stuck in against Pompey, but Doherty doesn't look like a big tackler, and Coventry doesn't always. I did think Coventry played quite well on Saturday, like sort of noticeably won a lot of challenges, and we'll talk about the pre-season performances shortly. But I do just want to sort of come back to the strength of the league this year, Lewis. Like, it's been well spoken about. Birmingham City are trying to buy their way back into the Championship, and if you're in that sort of shape in terms of money, then you would do so. Obviously, everyone is hoping that it comes back to bite them on the backside and they look silly. But I mean, that does feel like a big challenge to be able to compete with a side like them. Wrexham have a lot of money. Teams like Huddersfield, I don't know how well sort of backed they are, but these sides that come down from the Championship, Rotherham perennially do well in the Championship with a manager who knows all about doing well in League One, I should say. It feels like a tougher league this year. I'm certain you're not thinking, right, we're top 2 challengers. I'm thinking, I hope we're top 6 challengers, but I'm not in a position to say I think we definitely are yet. Which way do you see it, especially with the what feels like the relative strength of the rest of the division this time around?
It's definitely the strongest League One I can remember for a long time. I mean, I think going back to the last time we got promoted, funny enough, when we had Sunderland and stuff in there, it's probably the strongest I've seen it since then. Obviously, it's been very well publicized about Birmingham and their money and what they're spending, and that can work and it can't work. You know, we've seen both ends of it before. Ipswich spent quite a bit of money when they were down here over a few seasons, and it took them a while to get out. So you're not guaranteed success when you load your team up with players and money. They signed a lot of players. You got to keep those players happy as well. And you know, I think they will be up there. I think it's pretty obvious they're going to be one of the strongest sides in the division. But I don't think I've seen a single person predict them to finish lower than first place. And I think you pitch yourself, the higher you pitch yourself, the higher you can fall, or the further you can fall. So there's pressure on them. They may not feel it, and they're kind of acting like they've won the league already, but there's definitely pressure on them to get out of this division. And then, yeah, there's lots of quality sides in this division now. You know, Wrexham, not quite a fairy tale, as you say. It's a Hollywood story, but it's a story that has led to a football club becoming quite successful and enjoying a spell of success. They'll be competitive. I think a lot of people will be backing them to do well. Even like Stockport County coming up have had a really good few years under Dave Challoner. I think they're really strong. Huddersfield, Michael Duff, great manager at this level. They've got a good squad. Rotherham did their business very early with Steve Evans, and he's a manager that, as you say, he knows this level very well, and he frustrates every single opposition going. I think us most notably. And a couple of, you know, there's the likes of Lincoln City finished very strongly last year under Michael Skubala. I think they'll be a threat. They've lost a few players, but I do think that they'll be a threat. He seems to be a very good manager and has got them playing a very good brand of football. And I do think that Bolton will be up there again. They'll be looking to bounce back from playoff, you know, disappointment. They have a very strong side, very good players, like Dion Charles, etc. All very, very difficult players to handle at this level. So yeah, look, it's a strong league, and I'm kind of looking forward to it in that sense, because I feel like we're not being pitched as high as some of these other people, and for me, that it feels like we can go about our business quietly. There'll be so much focus on Birmingham and Wrexham, etc., that I don't mind the spotlight being taken away from us and just letting us go about our business quietly and do our talking on the football pitch. Let the Birminghams and the Wrexhams have all the spotlight as much as they like, really. You know, I think this is a very, very difficult league to get out of, and I think that Birmingham may have a bit of a shock with that, regardless of signing these amazing players, and one of them obviously being Alfie May. This league is not as easy as it looks, and many clubs over the years, us, Sunderland, Ipswich, have all found that out the hard way. And
we have to hope that the Nathan Jones factor has us overachieving. I'd suggest. I mean, Love Life to the Full says top 10, probably top 6, maybe top 2 miracle needed. That's sort of where I'm hoping that we are currently. You know, maybe with additions would solidify the top 10, but the Nathan Jones factor, I really hope, is the thing that takes us over the line. Someone mentioned something about pre-season. Lucas, who very kindly came and met me in the cafe before the game on Saturday with his family, says if Charlton play with the energy they played with last Saturday, I think top 2 is achievable. I thought we were really good on Saturday, Tom, but I haven't spoken too much about pre-season, because how many times have we played really well in pre-season or really badly in pre-season and got to the real thing and it means nothing? Because if you go back a week from when we played really well against Portsmouth, we were really poor against AFC Wimbledon. How much are you reading into the performances, the results that we've seen in pre-season? Are you only as good as your last game, Portsmouth? You know, do you have to take into the account that when we played a team that was well drilled and, you know, defensively looked all right, Wimbledon, we struggled? You have to remember both aspects of that in pre-season.
I think if they've designed their pre-season right, which you'd hope with somebody like Nathan in there they have, the whole purpose is that you build and you build and you build, right? So we started okay overseas. We had those games behind closed doors against Millwall and Palace, who, despite what we would like to think, are in higher divisions than us and better sides than us, and competed okay. I know the results maybe weren't as good as we hoped, but we competed. And so the Wimbledon one feels like a bit of an outlier. And I couldn't go to that one, but I saw lots of people saying, that we looked devoid of ideas and we were lumping it a bit and it was the style that was the problem. I don't really care about the result as much, but that had me worried, the fact that we perhaps didn't have a style or whatever. But as I say, pre-season is all about building. So Nathan will have gone away from that and continued to build. And as you say, Portsmouth probably our most complete performance, I would have said, from a pre-season perspective, again against opposition at a level above. I know they've had a bad pre-season in terms of results overall, and their fans are a bit worried, but you still got to beat what's put in front of you. And so do I read a huge amount into it? No, I think pre-season is about getting players fit and about getting us, especially with this many new players, getting us together and getting a structure together. And so I think if Nathan feels confident with that, a bit like you're saying about the factor that he brings with him, I trust him a lot. I think he's for this level, he's a very, very good manager. I think there's a lot of potential there under him. And so I'm not worried about the preseason results, the negative ones that we've had overall. I think it's a solid preseason in terms of getting the players up to speed. Hopefully they're fitter than they were last year. I know Appleton was surprised when he came in about he felt they weren't fit enough. Maybe that was just an excuse to cover his results, but I know he mentioned that pretty early on in his time here. So if we're fitter, if all the new players have bedded in, and if Nathan is right in what he's saying about us having leaders and the way I see it about them digging in for each other, that carries you a long way in this division. And going back to the strength of the league, you're probably looking at, 8 or 9 teams that can finish in that top 6. And obviously, if you finish 4th, 5th or 6th, that's good. If you finish 7th, 8th or 9th, it's obviously not, even though there's only 1 or 2 positions different. So I definitely think we're in that mix. I think obviously it's too early to predict where in that we are until we start to see what we're like on the pitch. But we're definitely in the hunt. That's for sure. And now it's about the games that actually matter. And can we put that together quickly and make a good start? Because obviously after Leyton Orient last season, it dropped off pretty quickly, and that was what led to Holden going.
Excellent stuff. Right, let's have a quick break. When we come back, we will continue to look ahead to the brand new season, and we will hear from one of our new strikers, Gassan Ahadme. We'll see you in 30 seconds.
Hello, fellow addicts. I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is our first big match preview of the campaign, looking ahead to the brand new season, which will start up at Wigan Athletic on Saturday. A couple of housekeeping bits. You may have noticed we're after a new sponsor. So if you have a company based in South East London and want to get your firm sort of in front of plenty of eyeballs and eardrums over the course of the season, twice a week, you'll get your show sponsored. You can sponsor the show. You get your branding all over YouTube, all over social media, all over the downloads we get from Acast as well. I can guarantee you get value for money. You'll get a lot of punters in South East London listening to what your firm has to offer. Make sure you give me a message on Twitter or via email. Also want to bring to your attention, just so I can mention that I won it last year again, that Joe Puddyfoot has opened up a prediction league for our listeners. So you have to predict the top 6 and the bottom 6. Joe, if you could share that again on social media. If you look down our Twitter profile page, I'll put it on there as well. But basically, go in, pick which teams you think are going to finish in the top 6, which teams you think are going to finish in the bottom 6. You got until the Saturday to nominate where you think sides are going to finish. I last year won it by, I believe, a country mile is the phrase I'm going to say, but I definitely won it. And if anyone's interested in who came bottom, didn't hear the Player of the Year podcast, it was Mark Newbury. So it's quite nice. So we had over 100 and something entries to that. And the person that came bottom was from the show, and the person that came top was me, which was very, very nice. So make sure you go and enter that, sort of just for a bit of fun. But yeah, don't miss out on a chance to vie for second, obviously, because I'm going to win again. Right, we've got some new signings in the building, and I was lucky enough to speak to one of them on Saturday. Gassan Ahadme got his first goal for the club when he headed home an open goal, because near post Norris had gone so far to the near post. He was actually gone out for a throw by the time the cross had come in. But Gassan Ahadme was there to head into the empty net. Signed him from Ipswich Town, of course, in the summer. Was on loan with Cambridge last season, scored twice against us at the Valley. Hopefully he'll be keeping up that goal record in SC7. I spoke to him after Saturday's pre-season game with Portsmouth and asked him how he's settling into life in SC7. Sort of feeling like you settled into life at the Valley?
Yeah, I feel that I've settled really well. It's a really good group. My teammates, the coaching staff, everybody's helping me to improve and feel welcome. So it's been really good.
How are you feeling fitness-wise? So you had some strapping on at one point in pre-season. How's all that sort of being handled at the moment?
Yeah, I had a small thing that the coaching staff and the club has been dealing with and has been managing, but it was just a small thing, and now I'm feeling good. I felt good today, so I'm ready to start the league properly.
Excellent. There's loads of competition for places up top, which I guess every striker will say that's what you want, really. You want other players to push you as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a really good group, different profiles in the team, so it will be good to have that kind of competition, because it will keep everybody on their toes.
Yeah, and as you say, different profiles, different types of strikers up there, so there's a decent amount of variety in that front line for Charlton as well.
Yeah, exactly. The manager will have different options for certain games, because sometimes you need a certain stuff from certain players. So yeah, you'll have different options, but as I say, the competition will keep everybody on their toes.
What sort of targets are being spoken about for this season in the dressing room?
As a team?
Yeah.
Try to get promoted.
And you feel, I guess there's probably a degree of confidence in the amount of players that have come in, and obviously performances like today can help as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it's clear that the amount of players that have come here, the ideas that the manager himself have come here, and everybody will try to push on the same direction, and the objective is get promoted.
And from a personal point of view, do you set like goal targets at the start of the season?
Yeah, of course. I always set goals, but that I'll keep to myself.
Yeah, obviously you scored here at the Valley last season, didn't you, for Cambridge? So you got used to that. You know all about League One, and you know how tough it can be. Charlton obviously struggled last season, but hoping for a better one this year. Do you feel like they're quite well placed to make a challenge?
Yeah, 100%. I think Charlton is a good is a big club. We have really good players. We have a new group, new manager, and I think that we can do something nice this season.
But you can't wait to get going next week up at Wigan. Obviously, pre-season does feel to drag on when the competitive stuff is just around the corner.
Yeah, 100%. The pre-season is really important, but as you say, now the real things start, the real games. Nobody cares about pre-season. Well, you do, but the real stuff starts now, so we need to be at it.
It's a tough start as well to go up to an away game up at Wigan, who will see a decent side as well. And what sort of a challenge do you think they'll face for Charlton?
Yeah, it'll be a tough game. Like I think it will be all the games in League One, but we'll go there, try win. Like we'll be going to every pitch in League One. I'll try win. It doesn't matter who we play against. Yeah,
and do you sort of, as players, think like it's important to make a statement to show what sort of side you are, and start off well the season?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we want to achieve big things this season, and there's no better way to start than starting in a good way.
Brilliant. And just finally, what's Nathan Jones been like to work with? Obviously, he's had great success at this level with Luton Town, and Charlton fans seem to like him so far.
Yeah, he's a really good manager. I don't have to tell that. Everybody knows. But what I really like is the clarity and the ideas that he's setting in our team on how we have to do the things and how we have to play. And I think that we're showing that in the pitch, and that's the most important thing. Yeah,
it sounds like he's quite high on like work rate. He likes that, but I've heard that you're the same like that. You like to train really hard. Is that how you are?
Yeah, exactly. He likes the commitment, press, working hard, winning duels, and I think that these are really important aspects to have success in this league. So hopefully we do. There we go. That's the gas man speaking to myself after the pre-season game
against Pompey on Saturday. Yeah, what have you made of his arrival? Lewis obviously had injury problems last season, so he didn't play as much as he would have liked for Cambridge, but he got a reasonably decent amount of goals in the time that he did. It feels like, as I mentioned to him there, like people say he's a real hard worker, and I think they even came up in pre-season. Like apparently that injury was probably because he was pushing himself too much, which in a way sounds good, but in a way, given our record, means he'll probably run himself out of contention with an injury somehow. But yeah, what have you made of him so far?
Oh, let's hope not, mate. Let's hope not. Yeah, I've liked him so far, to be honest. I think he comes across really well. I saw a clip last week about, I think it was with a Pompey fan actually, and they were like, "What's your biggest highlight of your career so far?" And he was like, "Signing for Charlton," and I loved that straight away. Immediate favorite player vibes. But yeah, like you say, hard worker, physical player, knows where the goal is, runs around a lot. I think even he runs too much, as you say. I think he got told off for doing too much running pre-season, which is rare. It's not something I've ever been told off for. But yeah, it's a good signing. I like him a lot. I think he comes across as a great character. I think it worked really well, the system Saturday, playing him alongside TC, who for me is really good up top as well. That little and large partnership looks dangerous. So yeah, I think there was a little bit. I thought the first maybe 30 minutes on Saturday, I think he looks a little bit rusty or a little bit out of position at times, and a bit like the deer in the headlights sort of thing at times. I was thinking, oh no, but he definitely improved as the game went on. He grew into it. Those understandings build up, don't they, between teammates and stuff like that. And he's not played as much preseason as he'd maybe have liked, but overall, I was pretty impressed with him Saturday once he got up to speed, got his goal. I think it was like 3 goals in 2 games at the Valley. So as you said earlier, let's hope he keeps that goal scoring ratio up for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his competitive minutes at the Valley, he's actually scored 2 goals in the last 3 competitive minutes he's played at the Valley. So if he extrapolates that over the course of the season, we're looking at thousands of goals, which would be a decent return for a striker in League One. Right, Robert says, I'm not convinced we've got the right players to achieve any better than for the last few seasons. Jay says, Robert, give it at least 2 games before the negativity, mate. That's normally my standard. Let's let 2 games in, then we can get them all gone, that sort of thing. Let's just enjoy the ride for the first 15 minutes of the season at least. But then, as I said earlier, Robert, I think it's fair to say we don't really know yet, and 10 games is always the mark, isn't it, to find out. Right, let's start to look ahead to Wigan. Let's hear Nathan Jones look ahead to it. Then when we come back, we'll discuss what we think the starting lineup should look like. So get your comments in as well. Any players you'd like to see start on Saturday. This is what Nathan Jones says ahead of the first game of the campaign up at Wigan.
Also on Saturday that Miles Lehman was close to a return, which is such a long time ago, it's going to feel like a new signing in itself. I presume we have to be a little bit cautious given the extent of his injury and how bad it was to.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a young player with a big future, and what we have to do now is all the margins that we do now. Got to make sure that they give him the best chance, one, of recovering very quickly now, but also in having no issues going down the line. He's worked hard. We've been very cautious with him, and he's in a wonderful place. And I'm really excited to work with him because, I said, for me, he will be a new signing. He won't be for Charlton, but he will for me.
2 other players who've picked up knocks. Matty Godden with the head injury, and Lucas Ness, I think, is also carrying a knock. So are they close to a return?
Well, Lucas had an injury last year that he was playing with, and we had to sort that out. So that's taken the time with Lucas. Matty, just a bit of stiffness. He had a head injury, but that wasn't the thing that kept him out. He just had a bit of stiffness, so we've just got to be careful with that. Plus, first game of the season, we've got 6 or 7 strikers here, so we've got real competition in that department. So we don't risk anyone. What we want him to do is to get him back as soon as possible, because he is one of our summer signings.
So moving on to Saturday, Wigan away, first game, an early evening kick-off, probably not necessarily the fixture you've chosen as the first one, and the kick-off time might affect the number of Charlton fans who can actually get there. So it's going to be a tough game. Obviously, they finished 12th after an 8-point deduction. Do you expect them to be one of the strongest sides in the league this year? I think they're very well coached. They've got an excellent manager. They've got a real sort of good way of playing. So it'll be a very, very difficult game. It's a difficult start, but every game is difficult wherever you play.
it's tough, and I expect there to be a lot of early results that's going to surprise people in terms of stuff. And what I want us to be one of those on the positive end of result, and that's all we can concentrate on, really.
And just lastly for me, Greg Doherty will be leading the side out on Saturday against Wigan as the club captain. Was he always earmarked by you as being captain potential when you signed him?
Oh, absolutely, and we wanted to sign more leaders, and we've done that. We've got a lot more leaders in the building now in terms of how they train, how they act, how they speak, and we could have had 2 or 3, whereas last year probably wasn't the case. Natural leaders, we could have put people in because of what they were doing and so on, but natural leaders, we didn't really have many. So that was something we wanted to improve on, and we have done that. Plus then people like Lloyd Jones, who for me only played sort of 4 games last year, but we're looking for him to have a big season this year because of the quality he possesses.
There we go. That's Nathan Jones then, looking ahead to the start of the season, the game up at Wigan Athletic on Saturday. I mentioned it before we heard the clip there. I want people to let me know who should start in this game. I think one of the obvious question marks is over who's going to start up top, because Tyrese Campbell has been playing in that striker role in pre-season and started on Saturday. Obviously, Matty Godden wasn't available Saturday because of the concussion protocol. He came off with that head injury against Wimbledon, and therefore he wasn't available. So who knows if Matty would have started ahead of Tyrese. But Tyrese has played so well, Tom, that it's hard to say that he doesn't start on Saturday, and a lot of people in the chat are saying that he should start on Saturday. So will he start on Saturday, and will it be alongside the gas man for you?
I'd like to see that. Yeah, I think he's deserved it. I thought he was hugely impressive towards the back end of last season. I know when he had little cameos earlier on in last season, we were questioning exactly what he did and what he offered. I can't remember if any of the managers were questioning that as well, but I thought towards the back end under Jones, he was really impressive, and now moving him through the middle, as you say, that seems to have been very effective as well. So I was just kind of looking as we were listening to Nathan there and thinking, who am I going to play up front? And you've got Gassan, you've got Godden if he's back, you've got Anike if he's fit, you've got Carnu, you've got Campbell and Lieberman. So we're well stocked up there, and obviously we need different strikers for different games. And so they will rotate. But I think based on what we've got at the moment, I think you should go with them. They played well at the weekend. And as I say, TC, he's on a good run of form if you count the back end of last season as well. So, yeah, I think I would like to see those two. I'm sure that will change through the season once Godden's up to speed. Lieberman and Anike's, if he can stay fit, going to be impact off the bench still. But it's nice to have those options, because as you two were talking about earlier, we were heavily reliant on May's goals last year, and we're going to need goals from all over the side. We're looking at all of those strikers, and if they can all get towards sort of 10, obviously a couple of them more, but if they can all get sort of into double figures, you're looking at a lot of goals across the team without even thinking about the midfield yet. So, I think it'll probably be those two to start, but hopefully some rotation if we're struggling sort of second half.
Another big question, again, that a few people have put in the chat. I mean, Andrew saying they'd probably go for Edwards over Small. All hell let loose was saying, do we go with Thierry Small or Josh Edwards at left wing back? For me, I think it's Josh. I think they offer slightly different aspects of their game. Obviously, Thierry gets up and down so well with the ball. Josh, I think is a little bit cuter with the way he sort of tries to create chances. Probably a better passer from what I've seen so far. Lou, I mean, again, Edwards has started the games recently, so which way do you see it?
It's so tough. I think I saw a tweet last Saturday that was like, picking between Thierry Small and Josh Edwards is like picking between Roberto Carlos and Marcelo, which made me laugh. I think Edwards, from what I've seen so far, has looked a real tidy player. Also a massive fan of Thierry Small, though, so it's so difficult. I mean, I'd be surprised. I've seen a few suggest that, because obviously Edwards can play left centre back, can't he? I'd be surprised if we did that, because I think there's always that option if you don't play one, that if it's not working, you've got the opportunity to bring on the other. I thought when Thierry came on Saturday, you already, I know it was a friendly, but you already had tired legs from dealing with Josh, and then you counteracted that by, completely doubled up by having Thierry come on, who is absolutely rapid and so good with the ball at his feet as well. So it's very, very difficult. I mean, I'd hate to be Nathan making that decision, but I think if I was going on what I've seen pre-season, I'd probably just about be leaning towards Edwards for Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, one other decision I've written down. Again, these are all just things I think Nathan might be trying to decide. He probably would have made this decision by now, but between maybe Anderson and Berry in midfield. But again, the more we see these players, the more we'll understand how Nathan sees them fitting into the team, who is the type of player that would suit a certain type of game. We'll find out up at the DW Stadium on Saturday. I don't think it's called that. I think it's got a weird sponsor name now, but whether it is up at Wigan, we will find out how Nathan Jones sets out his first team of the season. Don't forget, it's a 5:30 kickoff, so it's a late journey home for anyone who's not staying over. I know Lou's staying over and enjoying the nightlife in Liverpool, so he'll have a better time than me and Kyle driving back down the motorway until about 1 o'clock in the morning. But anyone who's going up there, I hope you have a really good time up at the Brick Community Stadium. That's what Paul Davenport is reminding me it's called. It's a great name. That wonderful. Are they advertising bricks? I mean, they sort of sell themselves, especially these days. Right, we've run out of time on Charlton Live. I hope you've enjoyed our first show back. Massive thank you to everyone who's joined us. We'll be back on Sunday morning to look back at the Wigan game and ahead, of course, to the League Cup game with Birmingham City. Lou and Tom, been an absolute pleasure to have you on the first show of the campaign.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers,
Good to be
everyone.
back.
Great to speak to the pair of you. So I'm Louis Mendez. Don't forget to join us again on Sunday morning. We look forward to seeing you then.